Hello and welcome to another session of AZMAT System tutorials. We'll continue with where we left on in the last tutorial with the discount factor command of the X menu. Let me just show you where we are. X file options. They're not here. Because in Excel 2007, you have to see the version of your file options, then you go in resources, where we are in Excel 2010. So it's under help, at Microsoft Excel 2010, version 14. If I go in the additional version and copyright information, there you see Microsoft Excel 2010, version 14. Also then, if you click on this system info, it'll tell you which operating system you're using, plus other information. So we are running under Windows XP, as it will show here. OS name, operating system name, Microsoft Windows XP Professional. So we're running XL 2010, or which is also known as Excel version 14, under Windows XP. As you notice, it has the column headings A, B, C, D. I prefer to use the number ones, which you'll notice that as soon as AZMAT System starts, it will automatically change it, and you will be able to do so yourself as well. Not only just like by using commands, but by programming. Right, let's just start. File open. My computer. I'm using it from this drive G on a USB stick. So Excel 2010 I want, so I go in that directory or folder, AZMAT folder, and AZMAT.xls is the main program file. It's open as read-only. Always open this as read-only. Keep the original safe somewhere. Several copies, 2 or 3 even. AZMAT System password, you can change it yourself on your own copy of AZMAT System. Always let the user know what you're doing, so please wait and so on. I'm using the 2-letter ID AA and my own 4-digit password, which you'll have your own. In here, you can see helpful messages to let the user know what's happening, what you're trying to do, which files you're opening. But before AZMAT System starts, it has to carry out various checks and open several files. So as we are in Excel 2010, from Excel 2007 onwards, the AZMAT System commands, or any of your own commands in the menus you add, they have to be added here under add-ins, and then you can access them. Whereas in earlier versions of Excel, you could simply add them, like here, JKX, directly onto the menu on the ribbon. Well, there wasn't a ribbon before, on the same line as the Excel commands. But in here, from 2007 onwards, they have to be all added in under the add-in. So that's all it's saying, required for most. So if I go here, click, because I can't fit it all in one message box, there is a limit to how many characters you can fit in, so I split it in 2. Right, so click add-ins. Add-ins will come here, there. If I click that, before I do that, I'm just going to restore it to the original size. That has become there maximized because I did, to begin with, I do maximize the Excel program to fill the entire screen, and then I can restore it to the size I want to. And one other thing while I'm at it here, I should also do is, as you can see, I can see the vertical scroll bars move, but there's no horizontal scroll bars. And in order to do that, because I restored the Excel to this size from there top to here, as opposed to all the way screen down there, I'll use the Windows arrange command. Windows arrange all. Yes, so now I have access to the horizontal scroll bar as well. Right, in here, one other thing I want to do is actually just use the add-ins, and then in here, let the AZMAT system save the data file. So add-ins, utility menu U, save the AZMAT data file. The advantage is it will put the date and time, current date and time, so 29th of August, 7:36 a.m. London time. And if you have two adjacent cells named AZ date time, so if you have like that, see AZ date time there, that way horizontally adjacent, or would have them vertically if you like. Then AZMAT system will enter the date and the time each time that file is saved using AZMAT system commands. Okay. So in this case, in my data file, I've got here, I have got that date time already. It'll already be there in your file as well to begin with, and you can use that same date cells, two cells, adjacent cells, name them if you like, range name AZ date time. It'll do that on other files as well. Last time in the last tutorial, we started with the discount factor command on the X menu, discount factor command. So we'll just continue with it. I had to stop it in the middle of it, not quite finished, but so I just want to continue with that before we proceed to the next menu. So in the discount factor command, Control D, you can either use the from add-ins, X menu, and the discount factor command from the menu itself by clicking, or you can actually use Control D directly on the worksheet. There are some differences in this particular command as opposed to the simple ones where we have the present value is Control V, or yield Control Y, or present value and yield, which is Control B, B for both, selecting cells, 2 cells in that case. These can be up to 5 cells, depending on the number of the PV methods or the in the yields is the same. We have several. Internal rate of return, just 1 cell, and Macaulay's duration and the duration of yield curve not flat, all just 1 cell. Now, discount factor is completely different in that sense in the result area, and very much different from the other commands, valuation commands, and whether you use the menu from here, X menu, so add in X menu and that, or this is only this add-in, remember, it's only for Excel 2007 onwards, 2007, 2010, and 2016 onwards. Whereas this, whereas in older versions of Excel, you will have the AZMAT menus directly. So it won't always be add-ins and then X menu. It could be X directly X menu. And the main thing is the command is the directly from X menu discount factor, whether you use it from the menu or use Control D, D for discount, discount factor. So we use Control D on a spreadsheet or use the menu. So we're just going to go briefly with that. So discount factor dates in column 1 and discount factors in columns 2, 3, etc. So this is a, for example, discount factor area here I have. And the first column will be the dates. You have to give the, like cash flow. Cash flow, you have a date and the, I'll come out of this so you can see. In cash flow, you have a date and the amount column, date and the amount. So it's not always negative. It's negative there, positive the last one. You'll see why and later on, or positive and so on, whatever. So you have first cash flows. There's a date column and the amount column. Whereas discount factor is just the dates. So discount DF date 1. So discount factor date 1. Discount factor date 2, and so on. The result for the discount factors is you're telling AZMAT System to use these dates, for example, DF date 1, use these dates and give me the calculate the discount factors on, for example, B for bid, offer, mid, and these are two special ones methods. So if I have M and B, so mid and bid. So the result of discount factors will be 3 columns. First column will be the dates, and then the actual discount factors. So it will be in the same order as you have specified in the DF method, discount factor methods. So if I have MB, M for mid, B for bid, so the first one will be mid, second will be bid. If you have A, just A for all, then it will have the, and you have to select it 5 columns on the actual discount factor results. Bid, offer, mid, special one D, and special F, and the dates column. So the whole result will be 6 columns. Always discount factor results will be, remember, 1 column, the first column will always be the date column, and then the number of discount factors you have specified that you would like AZMAT System to calculate and provide the results for. So if you specify 2 discount factor methods, the result will be 3 columns. First column is the date, and the other 2 will be the number of discount factors specified. So Control D for discount factor enters calculated discount factors in current cells and below. Current cell or cells and below. So if you have to specify discount factor result, DF res, as you can res short for result. So DF res 1, if I put 1 here, I'm telling AZMAT System to use DF res 1 range name. So which is here. If you see here, it will show DF res 1 because that's what I have called DF res 1. That cell, just one cell, top left-hand corner of my results cells where I want the discount factor results to go is defined. Just define the top left cell. And then AZMAT System will do the rest, depending on the number of discount factor methods you have specified and the Also, of course, depending on the number of dates in the DF date column. So AZMAT system, the control D enters calculated discount factors in current cells and below. So the results will be like so. If there are more discount factor methods are specified, it will be like that, so on and all the way down. Now, since you may not realize how many the number of rows will be, you can know here because here you already know the discount factor dates there. So that's why here same number of dates as in the original dates column. But when you ask AZMAT system to generate the actual dates, you can. Then you do not know how many dates, how many rows of the results there will be. So what I suggest is do not specify DFres 1, 2, or whatever, wherever you want these contract results, where you have other, like here, this one was I had just used for some other results, discount factor results there. So I'm not bothered here if this gets overwritten. But as you can see that everything else is all empty here. Because if I asked AZMAT system to generate the actual discount factor dates, instead of giving discount factor dates for which I wanted to calculate the discount factors, then you do not know what the number of, how many rows it will be. So do not specify discount factor results area somewhere where you have other information like here, there, wherever, lots of it. Put it somewhere completely where you have nothing below. Because you may decide, by mistake, you might have just press Control D and you ask it to generate the results. They generate the actual dates, in which case it will simply enter the results all over. It will actually give you a warning to say that it will overwrite anything underneath here from this here onwards. So do not. So in the first place, it's best not to give the discount factor result area somewhere where you have other important data which you want to keep. In this case, as I said, I have these here, but I'm not bothered if they get overwritten. It's just some old data. So in here, I have DFres 1 as an example. In this particular case, it's probably using the DF date 1 discount factors or the CF date 1 discount factors. You can see in this particular case, if I see the date here, in fact, I'm going to put both DF date 1 and CF date 1 and just show you and bring the results here. This particular one, if you compare the dates, you can see the first date is 30th of August 2017, the same as that, 28th of February 2018, 29th of August 2018, and so on. So even though I've got here, these are discount factor results area, DFres 1, this could not have been the using DF date 1, although it has the same number of rows as that. So the actual dates, as you can see, are the same as CF date 1. So in this case, I must have specified AZMAT system to use the cash flow dates 1 rather than the DF date 1. And the way you will do that to specify cash flow date 1 to use is put 100 there in the DF date column. So if it's equal to 100, as it says, use cfdate. Okay, so whatever the cfdate here is, in this case happens to be 2, but if I have it 1 there, if I enter 1, must have entered 1 at the time I used this, because then if it's 100 means, and the dfdate means use cfdate, and cfdate 1 is that. So use those dates to generate mid and bid discount factors. If this command is invoked from the X menu of AZMAT System, so add-ins, X menu, there, discount factors, click that. If it's invoked, if it started from the X menu, then the contents of use dfres, which is here, use dfres, res for results, short result. Then the contents of use dfres determine where the discount factor results are placed. So if you use this command from the X menu, discount factors, it depends on where the result will go. So if I have got here 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, I'm telling AZMAT System to use the result area called dfres1, 2, or 3. Instead of question mark, it will be the number you have here. So in this case, I have 1. So I'm saying that to AZMAT System, use dfres1 only if I use the command from X menu. That's the difference. The current selection is ignored and does not determine the destination of discount factor results. So I could have my cell, for example, here, wherever, there, or some other spreadsheet, or wherever. AZMAT System will not use. It will only use that value if you have specified it. If it exists and you use the command from the X menu, discount factors, then AZMAT System will use this value here, whatever you've used, add it, append it to the dfres to get a name. So it will be dfres1. If you look for a range name called dfres1, and if the name exists, it will use that, as in here in this case. It'll ignore wherever your current cell is, does not matter. So this is only when you use the command from the X menu. This method enables the user to place the results anywhere in any worksheet of any workbook, as long as that workbook is already open. This workbook need not contain a worksheet called AZMAT, as this one is. So, for example, I could say here, I could put 1. I have dfres1 here, as you can see there, dfres1, range name. I could have here, but I could specify a different worksheet. So in the same workbook, this workbook called AA.XLSX, I could have another sheet called, I don't know, XYZ, or sheet 2, or sheet 3, whatever. And if I enter sheet 2, for example, and I have a spreadsheet called, worksheet called sheet 2, I could have a dfres1 range name there. So if I have sheet 2 here and dfres and just 1 there, it will not use this dfres1 in this worksheet. Instead, it will use dfres1 in the worksheet called whatever you have specified here, is sheet 2 and so on. Furthermore, I could also specify a workbook. So workbook or a file, if you like. It need not be this. It could be something else. Whatever that workbook name, if you specify a workbook, as long as that workbook or that file is already open in Excel. You could say, use that workbook, that particular worksheet here, whatever you specified, and that particular name. So by using the command, discount factor command from the X menu here, it's extremely flexible. Gives you the opportunity to enter the result, get AZMAT System to put the results in any worksheet of any open workbook and anywhere in that particular workbook by defining a range name. And all you have to do is DFres 1, 2, 3, anywhere up to 99. So you could have DFres 78, for example, and just by entering 78 there in a worksheet called whatever, sheet 5, or the name, anybody's name, if you like, whatever the worksheet you want to call it. And just like here, like AZMAT, you could call it whatever your name is if you want to, worksheet name, and a workbook, which is a file name, which is here. So it gives you the flexibility to put the results in anywhere, in any worksheet of any workbook, as long as that workbook is already open. That's the main thing. That workbook must already be open. And furthermore, this workbook need not contain a worksheet called AZMAT. So the results workbook or file need not contain a worksheet called AZMAT. If, however, Control D, so if I put it here or wherever, if I use Control D instead of the X menu, instead of the command from here, if I simply press Control D to start this command, then the current selection determines where the discount factor results are placed. So if I have it here in this particular worksheet, I press Control D, the results will go from here, top cell. Remember, this will be the top cell like that. So it will start from here, below number of rows, determine on the number of either discount factor dates specified, like CF date 1, CF date 2, and so on. Or if I ask it to generate the results, the discount factor dates rather, then it will generate the number of rows for the days, and then the actual calculated discount factors will go in the adjacent columns to the right. So if Control D is used to invoke this command, then the current selection determines where the discount factor results are placed. The contents of use DFres are ignored. So even though I have here DFres, you've got 1 here, so it means use DFres 1. And because these are blank, both are blank, nothing in here, it means the current workbook and the current worksheet. That's the DFres 1. It will ignore that. It will not determine, this will not determine where the results go. So what determines is if you use Control D, the current selection, where the current cell is, or the number of cells, if you really knew exactly how many rows, but this must be right. That's what determines where the result area is. AZMAT System will ignore whatever is here. This will be used only when you are using the command from the menu, X menu. Control D, when you use Control D, the current cell determines the result area. Very important. This method enables the user to place the results anywhere in any worksheet of the current workbook. Remember, the current workbook. It will be, if you think about it, it has to be the current workbook because you are the current cell can be active only in the current workbook. In this case, it's AA.XLS, but whatever workbook is, wherever my cell is, that workbook is already open by definition, and it will be current because that's where my cursor is. So you can place it in any worksheet of the current workbook as long as that worksheet, that workbook contains a worksheet called AZMAT. So it doesn't have to be in AZMAT. I could have sheet 5, sheet 10, or whatever called another worksheet. I can have the result open. I can have the results placed there. So I could be in that particular worksheet, and I use just Control D. And as long as that worksheet has, that workbook has called a worksheet called AZMAT with an AZ parameters area, by definition, if you have a worksheet called AZMAT, you must have an AZ parameters area, which is that. As you can see, AZ there. So this is an AZ parameters area. As long as this worksheet, that workbook has got a worksheet called AZMAT, and that worksheet, AZMAT, must have an AZ parameters area called AZ. I can place the result anywhere on any worksheet of the current workbook by using Control D. Discount factor results are directly dependent upon the parameters provided by the user. Right? So the results, again, is different from the other valuation commands like present value, yield, internal rate of return, and so on. These results are directly dependent upon the parameters you provide. You provide. If the user enters a 0 in the use DF date cell, for example, here, use DF date. If it's 100, it means use CF date. But if it's 0, instead of 100, it is 0. You're telling AZMAT System to automatically generate the discount factor dates. Right? You're not providing any CF date column or the DF date column or DF whatever. You're not saying to AZMAT System, use these DF dates, all these, and so on, whatever. You're telling AZMAT System to actually generate the dates itself, whatever, depending on that particular currency curve. So it's very, very important, discount factor dates command. How to use it. You really need some practice several times. Use it. By all means, put 100 there and use the CF date columns to specify the CF dates to be used for discount factor dates. If you put 100 there, as we have there, but if you enter 0 there, you're telling AZMAT System to automatically generate the discount factor dates. The generated dates are directly dependent. So the generated dates are directly, the ones it will generate are directly dependent upon the number and frequency of the instruments in the rates curve as is specified in the rates file cell. So, for example, here you've got ZRUSD.XLS rates file. Now, I'm just going to open it, actually, both of these, in order to demonstrate the difference between this and do another. We'll open two rates files. they won't actually do any calculations at all at this point, just to show you. So add in K menu, open the curve for view. So I'm going to open the ZRUST. As I'm opening it, I have not calculated this file. It tells me, note that the rates file ZRUST.xls manual because there's a live file as well. This file needs to be edited today before it can be used in any calculations AZMAT system. As has been explained in several other tutorials of AZMAT system, every rates file, that's the rates file, ZRUST, for example, or it could be any of your own rates file of which you have defined yourself. Every rates file that you want to use in AZMAT system, it has to be edited that day before it can be used in any calculations. For example, to calculate present value, yield, internal rate of return, discount factors, and so on. So it just gives you a warning, lets you know, gives you an information, helpful message to say that it has not been edited. As you can see in here, the last time it was edited was that date, which is very different to today's date. This one, I'm only opening it just to show you the number of discount factor dates that will be generated. So if I see here, as you can see in this particular ZRUST that I've opened, it has 12 futures and has so many other swaps, number of years, so on. So the actual number of days here are, if I put it here, because I've opened in read-only mode, I cannot actually, AZMAT system will not, because this is Excel 2010. In 2010, Excel version 14, 2010 onwards, not on from 2007 onwards, it will not let you go anywhere if a cell is already locked. Earlier versions of Excel, up to 2003, you could go there. For example, even if it's open as read-only, in this case, so it means you can't change anything. You can just read it. But in later versions, from 2003 onwards, 2007 onwards, AZMAT system won't even let me go. I'm clicking my mouse, but it won't even go there if the cell is already locked. And in this case, all cells are locked, and the file is protected. So it won't let me even go there, let alone change anything. So these are the dates from here. So I'll have to simply scroll here from there to there. These are the number of dates from here. So from here, row 11 to row 34. So I have 24 rows of dates in here, maturity dates, depending on the number of instruments. Instruments are these: spot, cash, futures, swaps. So that determines the number. So when you use 0, ask AZMAT system to generate the date. The generated dates are directly dependent upon the number and frequency of the instruments. So the number of, for example, I have here 12 futures, and I have here from here 9 swaps. 3, 6, 9. 34 minus 25, one less, 9. And here swaps, futures, I can see that from futures 1 to 12, or I could just simply say 25 minus 14 plus 1, or 25 minus 13. So it's 12 futures, 2 cash instruments, and 1 spot. So these are called instruments: spot, cash, futures, swaps. So depending on the number of these instruments, it'll depend how many discount factor dates are generated. When you ask AZMAT system to generate the discount factor dates. So let's open another curve just to show you the difference. I'm going to open in K menu, of course, open curve for view, and I'll use, won't use GBP because that also has 12 features and probably the same number of instruments, so you won't see much. So I'm going to say JPY, so Japanese yen, and there, so reference curve Japanese yen, it has 8 features, as you'll see when we open that file. So the number of features, the number of discount factors are again the same message that has been edited today. So it needs to be edited before it can be used. So in here it has 8 features, as you can see, F1 to F8. Again, because I've opened this read-only, I can't go there. Even if I'm clicking here my mouse, it won't go there because it's open as read-only. And I'm only supposed to view it. So AZMAT System cannot, not AZMAT System, is Excel. This is Excel version 14, Excel 2010, and from 2007 onwards, you can't even go there if you want to by clicking. If you open the file as read-only and the cells are locked. In older versions, if the cells are locked, you can go there, and if you try to change it, at that point, you'll actually come up with an error, Excel error, saying the cell is locked, you can't change it. So you have to unlock it before you can change. So in later versions, Excel basically doesn't even just let you go, it doesn't even let you go there. So there's no question of you trying to enter something where you are not supposed to do so. Physically makes it impossible for you to change any cells which are locked if you have got here in read-only mode. I suppose it makes sense, but I'd rather actually go there somewhere to show. But in this case, I can just move the mouse, hover it around. So you can see here, this one, if I scroll it down, number of rows, as you can see, it is from here, 11 to 19, 29 says 19 rows I have, because it has only 8 features, probably the same number of sorts. Here, 1 to 9, 9 sorts, yeah, same as that. 2 cache instruments, 1 spot. So number of features are 8 in the Japanese yen curve. And if I go to the US dollar curve, you can see there the number of features are 12. So the number of days in Japanese yen would be from row 11 to row 29. So we have 19 rows maturity dates, whereas in US dollar curve, we have from row 11 to 34. So it's 24 dates. So that's what it means. How many number of, so if I have here, if I put 0 in the dates, use DF date, and there, if I enter 0, I'm telling AZMAT System to generate the actual discount factor dates, right? I'm not telling it to use this date column or that date column or whatever. I'm saying it to generate the dates. And the dates will be generated depending on the rates file. Rates or curve file is specified here, for example. Right, so in this case, it says ZRUSD. I could change it to ZRJPY or XEU for Euro, GBP for British Pound Sterling, and so on. And it will use that particular curve file and or rates file and generate the number of discount factor dates and the results depending on the number of instruments that particular rates curve file has. depending on the number and frequency, of course. Because in here, if I just, let's go back to that file. So we have here basis and frequency. You can see features always quarter. So Q for quarter. Whereas here in swaps here, I have the frequency annual. If I had the semi-annual, of course there'll be number of the swaps in here. These will be twice. And similarly here, cash I have here annual. So depending on the frequency. So it's depending on the number of instruments and the number of frequency. And frequency of those instruments, basically. That's what will determine the number of the discount factor dates that will be generated. So let's go back to that one. So in here, I have the discount factor date column, and these are the actual results. And in this case, just to make it look same, I would have here 100. I would have had at the time this was done, and here this would have been 1, because as you can see, the dates are the same. This is what I had used to generate these results. By specifying 100 in the DF date, I'm telling AZMAT System to use the cash flow date. Right? By simply saying 100, use the cash flow date. And so whatever in the cash flow date, CF date, I have 1 here, it means use CF date 1. So for these dates, CF date 1 dates, remember the cash flow itself is actually the date, cash flow is date and the amount. That's my cash flow. CF date, that's the area I've got cash flow date. Remember, although the area is there, more than is blank here, AZMAT System will come along and check each of these one at a time until it comes across a blank cell like that. Then it'll say, right, although the CF date is there, that's the CF date area 1, the actual dates are only up to there, so that will be the cash flow date will be used. Okay, CF date 1, cash flow date 1 area is that. But to generate the discount factors results, to get the discount factor results rather, I'm telling here by putting 100 in here in the DF date, telling AZMAT System to use CF date, which is here, number 1. You said telling AZMAT System to use the dates of the CF date 1 area, not the actual amounts. It has nothing to do with that. All it is interested is in the dates column. So it's going to use those dates by putting 100 in the DF date and putting the 1 in here, CF date. I'm telling AZMAT System to use these dates and give me the mid and the bid discount factors. By discount factor methods, I will specify the 2 in here, mid and bid, by putting M and B. So that's the mid discount factors, and those are the bid discount factors for those dates, which are the same as that. Just the format is different. In here, this is the format. As you can see, the actual day of the week as well is specified, plus the date, the month, and the year. Here is the same, it's simply date, month, year, also in the UK date format, not American date format, which is the other way around, which is month, day, date, and the year. Right, so let's, so I hope it is very clear that the discount factor results are very, very different to the very simple other valuation commands we have in the present value, yield, present value and yield, internal rate of return, Macaulay's duration, and the duration. These two, duration, Macaulay's duration, just one cell, the results go, or they will go here and the one cell, and in internal rate of return, same. Present value and yield, if you have it both, you have control B, whereas these present value and yield would be one or more cells depending on the number of methods. Like here, the DF method, so we have the present value methods specified. So if you have it A for all, you'll have 5 cells, up to 5 cells you can have results in, and so on. We won't go into that because we've gone to that in the other tutorial already, quite detailed. But discount factors, depending, so whereas the present value and yield, for example, if you have used the control key, say if I have it here, say control B for both, it'll enter the control, so it'll enter the present value and yield there, but it'll also enter them here, present value and yield here as well, in addition to the current cells, whereas control D for discount factors completely different. It will enter the results, you take that as a top cell, result area for example, and generate the results depending on the number of rows you have specified by the either the cash flow date one area or the discount factor date area, or if you asked it to generate by specifying 0 in here, depending on the number of instruments and the frequency of those instruments of the curve file specified here. So it's very, very different from the other commands. So control D will not enter results here and somewhere else. It will enter there, and furthermore, it will ignore whatever you have put down DFres1. So control D means enter the results where my cell is, current cell. Ignore whatever is specified here. This will be used only when you are using the X menu, discount factor date command from the X menu. Then it will ignore the current cell, wherever your cell is, does not matter. It will use this DFres, res short for result, DFres. Then append to it the number, which is in this case could be anything from 1 to 99. So in this case, DFres1, that's where the results will go if I use the discount factor command from the X menu. I hope it's very clear. It will become clear as you start using it and practicing various different methods. Use different, put it in number here, use it from there, use it control D, or put 100 here. In this case, use the CF datesman, or put 0 there to generate it, and so on. Use different curves and see what happens. It will all become very, very clear. And you'll become as good as an investment bank dealer or trader would be using it in the normal course of work in an investment bank. That is, if you're not already an investment bank dealer or trader, of course. So the discount factor results are directly dependent upon the parameters provided by the user. If the user enters a 0 in the UseDF date, if it enters 0, then AZMAT System will automatically generate the discount factor dates. The generated dates are directly dependent upon the number and frequency of the instruments in the rates curve as is specified in the rates file. Okay, only when you enter 0, then it will generate the dates. If you enter 100, it will use the CF date 1, 2, 3, whatever you have, the column for the dates. And if you actually enter, instead of 0 or 100, if you enter 2, it will use the DF date 2, those dates, and give you the results for the discount factors. The first column is always occupied by the discount factor dates, DF dates, as like here, first column. And the second and subsequent columns are occupied by the calculated discount factors. So in this case, I've got 2 columns, two result and discount factor result column, because I have got 2 methods shown here, M and B. So the first one is the mid discount factor, second one is the bid discount factor. Note that the results, the actual headings are not placed. To generate quickly all these here, to see which is which discount factor, see what you have specified. If you specified MB, the first one is mid, second one is bid. If you put BM, the first will be B, bid, and the second will be mid. If you have BOM, 3 of them, then of course it'll be, they don't have to be in this order, remember, it can be in any order you like. So it could be MOB, mob. So the first will be mid, second will be offer discount factor, third will be bid discount factor, and so on. If one DF method is specified, you just have one here. So just have, for example, O, offer. So it will have, the result will be 2 columns, date column and the offer discount factor. If 2 discount factors are specified, like we had there before, MB, note you can enter in them in small letters, in small case if you want, lowercase. AZMAT system will change it to the capital case afterwards. So it doesn't really matter, you can enter it in lowercase or uppercase. If there are 2 discount factor methods that are specified, result will occupy 3 columns, like here, because the first column is always the date column, excuse me, and the second and third column will be the result columns. If 5 DF methods, the maximum, are specified, the results will occupy 6 columns, because the first will be the date column, and then the 5 will be the result columns. Therefore, discount factor results can occupy a minimum of 2 columns and a maximum of 6 columns, because there are up to 5 methods you have. Bid, offer, mid, special D, special F, or just by entering A. You're telling AZMAT system to give me all 5 discount factor results. So the results will be placed in 5 result columns plus the discount factor date column, so in 6 maximum columns. The discount factor dates are provided by the user. If the discount factor dates are provided by the user, the results will occupy the same number of rows as the discount factor dates. So if you specify that many dates, the results will also be the same number of dates. Where the discount factor dates are generated by the AZMAT system, remember, instead of there you have 0. If you have 0 there in the DF date, you're telling AZMAT system to generate the discount factor dates. So where the discount factor dates are generated by AZMAT system, number of rows occupied by the results are directly dependent upon the number and frequency of the instruments in the relevant race curve. So the number of rows will be directly dependent upon the number of the instruments and the frequency of those instruments in that curve file as you specified here in the race curve file. When you enter 0 in the use df date column. So if you don't know how many there are, you don't know. So you don't know how many rows below it will go, the results. So that's why be very careful when you specify 0 there, because it might overwrite on some other important data you might have. Very, very careful. And even when you have actually specified the dates, for example, you could say use df date 7. Or, so if I have the df date 7 or 6, in this case, I have CF date, say I have a CF date 6 here. So if I enter here 100, what it means, I'm telling AZMAT system to, I'm just going to keep it here so I can see both, hopefully. I'm telling AZMAT system to, there, I can just about see both of them. I'm telling AZMAT system to use, by putting 100 there, use CF date. And in the CF date, if I enter here, for example, 7, or in this case 4, for example, here I have 4 here, I'm telling AZMAT system to use CF date 4, the dates form, by putting 100 in the DF date. I'm telling AZMAT system to use whatever CF date is there. So for example, 4 there, it means use CF date 4. So telling AZMAT system to use these dates to generate the discount factors. Give me the discount factors for these dates. Quickest way of telling AZMAT system is here, putting 100 there and use the CF date, put number 4 there, use that, and the results will be placed in the use which is below there. I have got here use dfres1, so the result will go in dfres1, provided, remember, provided I'm using provided I use this command from the menu, then the result will go in dfres1. If I can have 1 there, or 10 there, whatever I have does not matter. If I use the Control-D command, if I have my cell here, I use Control-D, then it will generate the results for these days as is specified by 100 there and as specified by the CF date 4. So for these dates, it will generate the results and place them there, because that's where my cell is. If I use Control-D, but if I did not use Control-D, if I use the menu command from the X menu, like that, then the results will go by what I have here, use dfres1, and so on. And this is my dfres1. That's where the results will go for these dates. And the number of rows will be same as the number of rows here, which happen to be 113. See, from 32, row 32 to 44, 13 rows. So the results will go here, 13 rows down, and the number of columns will be 3, because I have 2 methods here, M and B, And so I'm just going to put it down here so I can show you better. So the results of that, this area, all this what I have here is if I did not use Control D, if I use the command from the X menu, I'm saying to put the result TFRes1, use whatever is in CF date by putting 100 here. I have 4 here, telling AZMAT System to use CF date 4, which is there. Those dates, which we just counted 13 rows, the result of discount factor will go in here and there. 13 rows, you can just see here. While I'm holding my mouse down, if you read here, you can see that it'd be 13 rows by 3 columns there. So 13 rows by 3 columns. So the result, discount factor results will go exactly in that area. There, number of rows, that will be the date column. 2 discount factors, mid and bid. So the first will be mid, second will be bid. Provided I use the command from the X menu. There, clicking that command. Hope it's clear. It will become clear if you practice it. Lots of different combinations. Hope you enjoy using this particular command. Use it as often as you like, and it will become crystal clear in time. So just to recap, the DF result, discount factor results, can occupy a minimum of 2 columns and a maximum of 6 columns. 6 columns because there are a maximum of 5 discount factors. Plus, the first column will always be the date of the discount factors. AZMAT System basically either generates the dates if you enter 0 in the DF date, or use your specified dates. So the result will always be, discount factor result always be a minimum of 2 columns and a maximum of 6 columns. So, right? If the discount factor dates are provided by the user, the results will occupy the same number of rows as the discount factor dates. Like that, same number of rows. Where the discount factor dates are generated by AZMAT System, the number of rows occupied by the results are directly dependent on the number and frequency of the instruments in the relevant rates curve file, which is in the specified curve file. If you're using that curve, it will depend on the number of the instruments and their frequency. Note, the user can point to or specify DF area on any currently open file. So, the discount factor result area, you do not actually have to say just by using the number here or whatever. They can go anywhere in any worksheet. You have several worksheets here of any workbook, as long as that workbook is already open. Remember, that workbook or file must already be open, but the results can be placed anywhere in any worksheet of that open workbook or open file. Discount factor results workbook need not contain a worksheet called AZMAT if the command is used from the X menu of AZMAT System. Remember, the Control D, asking AZMAT System to put the results in the current cell, top cell, that would be in your top cell from there. That is only if you use Control D, it must be from in a worksheet in a workbook which has a worksheet called AZMAT, which has a AZ parameter serial. So this contractor results workbook need not contain a worksheet called AZMAT if you use the command from the X menu. So if you command from the X menu, then you can put the results anywhere in any workbook as long as that workbook or file is open. And that workbook need not contain a worksheet called AZMAT, as long as you use the command from the X menu. If you use the command by using the Control-D, then that workbook or that file must contain a worksheet called AZMAT, and that worksheet, AZMAT worksheet, must have an AZ parameters here. Hope it is clear. This command was briefly, I started in another tutorial, but it really is, because it is very, very comprehensive. I thought it is worthwhile spending a whole, more than an hour we spent on just this one command. And if you use it as frequently, as often as you like, it'll become really very clear. So let's just now finish this session. I'll start another session for different tutorial. I'm just going to use, as you can see, we started this at 7:36 a.m. on 29th of August. If I use the utility from utility menu and save AZMAT data file, it will enter the date and time again there. So this is the time we started here. Show you again 7:36 a.m. So now I say using that save AZMAT data file, save the file 8:42. So we're just over an hour, and I think it's about appropriate time to stop. And this really deserved more than an hour explaining that particular command, because it is very, very comprehensive, and it is important that you know the difference between, I'm just going to take all these off. In fact, well, let's save it again. No harm, you can save it as often as you like. There. So it's saving without all those split windows. Okay, I'll see you soon in another tutorial, and we'll stop this tutorial now.